Hey there, I'm Marvin, and welcome to Buddy Up Gaming. Terra Invicta is a deep, demanding 4X strategy game built around the fascinating question: how would humanity actually respond to the discovery of a hostile, technologically superior alien force? It's an incredible experience once it clicks, but it's also a monster when it comes to complexity. If you or your kids love strategy games, but need help getting a handle on Terra Invicta's many interconnected systems, be sure to check out our comprehensive beginner's guide, linked in the description. This video, however, is for players who've already got a run or two under their belts and are looking to tighten up their play. We're going to cover 10 tips that can dramatically improve your effectiveness against rival factions and the aliens alike. We'll start with a few interface and planning features that make decision making easier, move into more advanced Councilor mission tactics, and wrap things up with several combat tips that can help improve the consistency of your space battles. Tip 1. Use monthly totals. Terra Invicta gives you the option to display your resource income in daily or monthly increments. I've played this game long enough that I honestly don't remember what the default is anymore. But regardless, you absolutely want to switch this to monthly. Just check the box labeled Show Monthly Totals in the gameplay settings. Working with monthly totals makes it much easier to plan ahead, especially when you're saving up to purchase organizations. Once a new batch of orgs become available, all you need to do is add 1 month's income to your current stockpile to know whether you can afford them. This is incredibly helpful when you're eyeing expensive admin organizations, because it lets you quickly see whether you need to temporarily assign your research nation to spoils to cover any shortfall. Tip 2. Use skirmishes to test new designs. Terra Invicta includes a skirmish mode that lets you simulate space combat outside of a campaign. This allows you to test new ship designs before committing to them in a real run. To do this, you'll need to import a save file where those ship designs already exist, then create fleets that roughly match what you plan to deploy. Skirmishes are a fantastic way to evaluate new weapon technologies and ship layouts, especially when you're trying to figure out what actually works against the aliens. The main downside is that you still need to have completed all the prerequisite research in your campaign. If you unlock a new weapon and discover it's a total dud, well, you're stuck with the research cost unless you reload an earlier save. If you're looking for safe early game ship designs, we cover several effective options in our beginner's guide. Tip 3. Disable cinematic combat scaling. When starting a new game, you'll see an option to enable cinematic combat scaling. Don't do it. I honestly can't tell the difference in ship sizes in a way that adds to my enjoyment, but what I have noticed is how much smaller missiles appear during combat, often to the point where it's hard to track them at all. In early fights, this isn't a huge issue, since your missiles are almost guaranteed to hit. Later on though, alien ships will actively maneuver to dodge incoming fire, and being able to see missile trajectories becomes extremely useful. As of this video's release, combat scaling can't be changed once a campaign has started, so if you have it enabled at the beginning, you're stuck with tiny missiles for the rest of that run. Tip 4. Interact with rival Councilors to keep them visible. You may have noticed that when you fail a mission against a rival Councilor, they remain visible for the following turn. This mechanic is incredibly useful when you need to deal with multiple high-priority targets but only have one Councilor capable of handling them. A great example is alien agents. Destroying an alien outpost reveals all alien Councilors, but they typically have very high espionage, meaning you may only have one investigator who can reliably run Investigate Councilor. In that situation, assign your investigator to one alien agent, then use other Councilors to interact with the remaining agents using missions like Hostile Takeover or Investigate Councilor. Once you commit the mission, you can immediately abort it. Even though the mission won't resolve, the target will remain visible the next turn. For rival human factions, you can even use contact in the same way to keep their agents exposed. Tip 5. Research Singleton viruses for Endgame alien agents. Dealing with alien agents can be exhausting. I still remember the first time I completely cleared Earth of them. It felt incredible. Unfortunately, several years later, new transports arrived, and suddenly, I had an entirely new wave of agents to deal with. To make matters worse, later alien agents start with higher security stats and additional penalties to your success chances. Even with maxed out ops and a full investigation bonus, you may struggle to hit a 50% assassination chance. If alien agents are becoming a serious problem, researching Singleton viruses is well worth it. The 4-point assassination bonus can make a huge difference, even if the prerequisite technologies are a bit out of the way. Alternatively, you can try to stop alien agents before they even reach Earth by destroying their transport ships. This is tricky, since fleets with transports will always attempt to flee, and your ships may not have the thrust or Delta V to catch them. If your fleet has significantly more Delta V, you can force combat by splitting your ships into 2 fleets and alternating attacks. Each retreat drains a little Delta V from the alien fleet, and eventually you can force an engagement before the transport reaches the surface. Tip 6. Use Turn Councilor to support hostile takeovers. Improving the stats and overall effectiveness of your Councilors is a major priority in the early game. And that progress really accelerates once your high persuasion Councilor is strong enough to run the Turn Councilor mission. Penetrating a rival faction gives you full visibility into the Councilors and organizations, and missions against their agents start with at least a 3-point investigation bonus. That makes it a far more efficient way to strip a faction of high-value organizations than trying to track everything down manually. In most cases, the most reliable way to pull off a hostile takeover is to detain the Councilor who holds the organization you want. Detained Councilors temporarily lose access to all of their organizations, including administration-boosting ones that would otherwise increase takeover difficulty. It's critical that you run the detention and hostile takeover in the same turn, since rival factions may reassign those organizations or dismiss the Councilor entirely on the following turn. Larger organizations, or ones that provide especially strong bonuses, are naturally much harder to steal. Even if the Councilor holding them has a low administration stat, the mission difficulty may still be too high. This is where Turn Councilor really shines. I don't know whether this is an intended feature or an oversight, but turning the Councilor with the desired organization can dramatically improve your odds. Just before the takeover mission resolves, open the Councilor screen and have your turned Councilor resign. This dumps all of their organizations into the faction's unassigned pool, which changes how success chance is calculated and can massively increase your likelihood of success. You can even chain multiple hostile takeovers this way, though some organizations remain stubbornly difficult no matter what. Tip 7. Use Turn Councilor to strip rival factions of their best Councilors. Another sneaky use of Turn Councilor is dealing with especially annoying rival agents, specifically those with the untouchable or beloved traits. Normally, Assassinate is your go-to tool for removing dangerous Councilors, especially ones with high investigation or espionage. But if the target has one of those traits, killing them will apply the marked trait to your assassin, reducing their security by 10 and making them much easier to detect. The only way around this is landing a critical success, which turns into an exhausting exercise in save scumming. If the target's loyalty isn't too high, a cleaner solution is to turn and retire them instead. This becomes especially powerful in the late game, when rival factions often field multiple high-threat Councilors with loyalty monitors installed. Turning a Councilor who has a loyalty monitor only gives you a single turn to act before the faction dismisses them, and rival Councilors are also programmed to go to ground immediately after one of their colleagues is assassinated. When you combine those behaviors, chain assassinations become nearly impossible. The moment you complete one assassination, the rest of the faction's Councilors disappear into hiding while your mole gets purged. Turning and retiring key Councilors, while also assassinating other targets, sidesteps all of that letting you dismantle rival leadership in one clean sweep. Tip 8. Use Turn Councilor to build your own council. If all that cloak and dagger work isn't enough, you can also use Turn Councilor to strengthen your own roster. This is especially helpful once you unlock your final Councilor slot. Newly recruited Councilors tend to be severely underleveled, even with XP boosting projects. Turning and retiring a rival Councilor lets you recruit someone who's already developed. And rival factions, while inefficient, still do a better job than the recruitment pool. Plus, there's something deeply satisfying about stealing a Councilor and using them against their former faction. Tip 9. Manually reposition ships during combat setup. Ship positioning during combat setup is critical, especially if you're running early game compositions like missile boats supported by point defense ships. The automated roll drop-downs can be unreliable, so instead, pick a formation that fits your fleet and manually rearrange ships by clicking 2 vessels to swap their positions. For missile and PD combinations, here are some reliable rules of thumb. 1 PD ship can protect 2 missile boats in a line, or even 4 in a block formation. 2 PD ships can shield each other and 2 missile bolts in a short wall. And larger fleets should aim for a 1:2 PD to missile ratio in a high wall formation, with PD ships in the center row. Tip 10. Reduce the max ships allowed in combat. Terra Invicta is memory intensive, so it limits how many ships appear on screen during combat. The default cap is 30, but you can raise it to 90. I personally like maxing this out as long as it doesn't crash your computer, because seeing massive battles unfold is incredible. That said, late game alien fleets can vastly outnumber you. When the ratio gets extreme, reducing the ship cap can actually work in your favor. The game enforces a minimum 1:2 ratio, so if you bring 11 ships against 64 aliens with a cap of 30, the actual fight becomes 10 versus 20. You'll still need to peel off parts of the enemy fleet across multiple battles, but this approach can let an outmatched force survive and eventually win. Terra Invicta is a game that rewards system mastery, creative problem solving, and a willingness to experiment. None of these tips are strictly required to win, but together they can make your campaign smoother, more efficient, and far more forgiving when things go wrong. If you've reached a point where Terra Invicta has truly clicked and you're hungry for even more advanced strategies, that's where things like aggressive alien containment come into play. We cover those in depth in our Jupiter Rush series, which is linked in the description once you're ready to take that next step. Thanks so much for watching, and if you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like and subscribing to Buddy Up Gaming for more family-friendly strategy guides, reviews, and deep dives, designed to help you and your family tackle even the most complex games together. Take care out there.